And I'd never actually done a talk on this subject, so I had to start from scratch. I'm probably woefully unprepared. I'll do my best today. And also, a lot of the sponsors at this talk are actually mobile advertisers, which show what a strong business it is. But I'll be talking about this subject today from a developer's perspective, and hopefully that's useful to you all. A little introduction about myself. So I've been making games for 33 years. Quite a long time, ever since I was a little kid, and 9 years of independent development. I'm Australian, and I was born in regional Victoria among sheep and kangaroos. I got my start writing video games when I was 8 years old. Although I mentioned I lived on a sheep farm, I was far more interested in indoor activities. And my parents got me a Commodore 64 for my 8th birthday after I showed a lot of interest in school computers. It came with one game and one manual. I finished the game pretty quickly and dove straight into making video games. I did that for many years, and that was pretty much the only computer I had for a period of 10 years. I finished university in '93, was living in Adelaide, but there were no game development jobs, so I actually didn't get a start into the industry until I was retrenched from my job in 2000, and I decided, obviously the industry had changed a bit then, and I decided to take the money I was given on the retrenchment and get a job in games development. It took about a year, but during that time the Game Boy Advance came out. I entered into the homebrew scene, and from there was able to get a job at Tantalus Interactive. I worked there for many years, and during that period I actually worked in Malaysia for a year. 2008 I became an independent developer. I was really excited by the PC opportunities at the time. I always wanted to become a bedroom coder and do all the art and all the programming and all the sound by myself. And fortuitously also in 2008 the iPhone happened. I released my first PC game and very quickly pivoted to mobile when it became evident that that was the place to be. So from then, I've made a lot of games. This isn't all of them, but these are my games that managed to reach #1 on the App Store over the last 7 years. I'm very fortunate to have had this level of success. And so that's the introduction over. I'm going to move on to Crossy Road. I'm going to start with a truth that might surprise you, in that Crossy Road would not have existed. We would not have made it without rewarded advertising. That was literally the reason we wrote Crossy Road, was to make a game with rewarded advertising in it. The story sort of began with Flappy Bird, which was released 18 months before Crossy Road. Dong was a Vietnamese developer. I'd played a lot of his games and was ecstatic for him when Flappy Bird became the huge worldwide phenomenon that it became. There were talks at the time on industry websites saying that he was earning as much as $50,000 a day, which was like, wow, that's quite a lot of money. But even then, he was using just these little banner ads at the bottom of the screen, and I wondered to myself, I wondered what would happen if Flappy Bird was released with a more lucrative ad system, such as rewarded video or interstitial advertising, which was earning a lot more than banner ads. And that's sort of the first seed for Crossy Road was sown at that time. However, the biggest single influence on Crossy Road was a game called Disco Zoo, which came out just 6 months prior to Crossy Road. And that was the first game I played which had really well integrated rewarded video. So I knew Owen and Matt, the creators of this game, just through a network. I'd met them at GDC previously and sent them an email, congratulations, do you mind sharing your numbers for the first week? And they were very kind to do so, and the numbers were very high. Like, we could see them on the download chart, but of course on the grossing chart doesn't include advertising money. So that exposure to to that. I was very grateful for, and it proved that you could make a game with a rewarded video and do really well. So this is what Disco Zoo did if you haven't all played it. Essentially, there was a puzzle game, like a grid. There were animals hidden inside there, and you would play a little puzzle game to collect animals for your farmyard. But a lot of the time, you would not be able to solve the puzzle with the free attempts with the attempts you were given, and so then it said the standard, free-to-play paradigm. Why don't you buy 5 more attempts with their zoo dollars? But I'm fairly cheap, so I was I was definitely intrigued by the button on the left, get free 5 attempts, and I clicked it, and of course it popped up this video on the right. Would you like to watch a short video? And after watching the 30, you're essentially trading 30 seconds for 3 or 4 minutes of time it would take to jump back in and play another game. And that opening week of Disco Zoo, my friends must have watched thousands of ads. It was really inspiring. But the other thing is that Disco Zoo showed me that it was possible to make watching ads fun. So I'm someone who doesn't really like to pay to cover a design shortfall. Like I sort of saw through that, pay $1 to watch 5 ads. But psychologically, I was far more happy to watch a video. And I always got a rare animal after watching the video. I was super happy that I had watched the video, and it felt like a really great trade-off. So again, just to reiterate, our goal with Crossy Road was to make a game that would monetize only with the opt-in video advertising mechanic. So it sort of changes the goals. Like with a free-to-play game, we'd read a lot, and you sort of monetize 10% of your players or even less. I think 10% is a really good number of players if they buy in. The numbers are generally a lot less for a conversion. It's because we were making a game only with rewarded video, or that was the goal initially. It changes. Like then all of a sudden every player matters, and you want to make sure that everyone who plays your game is motivated to watch an ad. But ultimately in Crossy Road, you could also purchase a character or 2 or 3. That was another way players could contribute to the game. And the other one, which was really important, that even if a player never watches a video or never purchases a character, as long as they tell their friends how much they love the game, that contributed positively to Crossy Road's bottom line. So this is the thing we liked the best about an ad-supported game, and the main point today is that when you're making a free-to-play game, we are trying to get someone to make a purchase. You're starting to bring in, you're starting to fall into design paradigms, strict design paradigms, like Supercell's games, like regularly have trophy systems, and most of them work only as competitive games. With a game that only makes its money from ads, you just need to make a fun game. It's a little more complicated than that. I'll go into that, but just making a fun game was the most important thing, and that's what we focused on. We didn't have to worry about tuning our game to maximize ARPU. We didn't do any. It was just Andy and I. There was 2 developers on the game and 1 artist. We didn't have time to do A/B testing. We didn't do any before launch, and we've done very little since because our team was so small. But it didn't matter because we weren't having to pay for our users. They were all organic. Everyone that came in and played was pure profit. But although we're forgetting about ARPU, we need new key performance indicators. And so for us, they were, the first one was retention. So throughout our game and throughout our game design, we were doing everything we could to get players to have a lot of fun when they're playing, but to remind them to come back tomorrow, which is far more important. With Crossy Road, we had the free gift mechanic, but more importantly, we had a lot of characters that were worthwhile collecting. And we spent a lot of the dev time on Crossy Road making these characters interesting and fun and change up the world and funny. And we had a 50 at launch, and we were always adding more with every update, giving players more and more characters to collect. So our retention was very high. Our day one retention was around 70%, and our day 14 retention was 20, if I recall that correctly. Quite high. Our other key performance indicator was virality, where we did everything we could to get people to share Crossy Road with their friends. It's not that great as a key performance indicator. It's actually very difficult to determine the virality of your game. How many people, if there's word of mouth, like someone tells their friend like this, you don't actually know that they shared it in that way. But we kept a very close eye on Twitter and other social media networks to see, why were they sharing, what were they sharing, what are they saying about the game? Do they like it? Do they have a favourite character? And the key was, we just made a game that was worth sharing, and these are the four main points we tackled. So first of all, like Flappy Bird, we had a very fair high score system where you couldn't continue. Our scores were fairly low. If you got a score of 50, that was pretty good. If you got a score of 100, that was really good. And if that score you shared was a very good indicator, and so it just made friends go back and forth. They knew that score was very pure. We spent a lot of work on the sharing system. I mentioned before we integrated memes and funny characters. That was fantastic. We had a lot of people sharing. Whenever they discovered a new character that made them laugh, they would regularly go out to Twitter to share. And the final point was we wanted to make a game that felt light on the wallet, so that people were going to share for that reason. Like, come play this game, see how generous it is. So retention and virality actually multiply one another. The more people who share your game, the more players you have, and the longer they play, the more opportunity they have to share. So getting these two factors perfect was, I think, the key to Crossy Road's success. We also made a lot of effort to have a very large, engaged audience. So, we made sure our game appealed to all genders. We made sure it appealed to all ages, and we heavily localized. Even at launch, we were in 12 languages, but then through our updates, we had a UK update and a Korean update to make sure that the game was going to appeal to as wide an audience as possible. If you're making a game and you're wanting to make it ad supported, and you're targeting, boys between 7 and 9 that like action games, you're going to have far fewer players who are able to share. It's the snowball is much harder to get moving. And maximising your eCPM efficiently is also quite important. When we launched Crossy Road, we had just 2 ad networks, which was Unity Ads and Ad Colony, and we were mediating them ourselves. We quickly moved to a mediator, which was initially Hayes app, and at the moment we would recommend, we used to recommend that people, if they wanted to jump into and make an ad game, that they just pick a network and integrate it. These days, we would probably recommend you jump in with a mediator. We recommend Iron Source, who are the easiest to add. You can jump in very quickly, get multiple ad networks running, and get them all running against one another. It's easy and reliable. So I wanted to talk about some of the tricks we did, or some of the tricks there are in when integrating your ads. We looked at a lot of, although we didn't, I said we wanted to have a game which had low in-app purchases, that didn't mean we weren't looking at those games. We were looking at them very closely, and there's a lot of fantastic tricks that you can do to get people watching advertisements. This particular image here, I think, is Clash Royale does a fantastic job of presenting you with a purchase and presenting it as an opportunity. So what happens in Clash Royale is that there's multiple arenas that you go through, and as you complete each arena, it says, congratulations, you've now earned the right to make this in-app purchase. You know, sales have been around forever. You go to the supermarket, the cereal you normally buy is $2 off. I'll buy it today. But presenting these sales as an opportunity, it's incredibly effective at getting people to convert, and it certainly gets me to convert every time. So we do that in Crossy Road a lot. We worked for quite a long time on the system for presenting the ads and getting people to click and watch the ads and making them feel good about it. So I'll run you through that system now. So the first time you come into Crossy Road, this is the infamous banner system that has been used by many games since Crossy Road. The first banner that pops up is this one, which is the free gift. It refreshes every few minutes initially, and then later it refreshes every 3 hours. It presents you with a gift. Inside are a bunch of coins, and the number of coins it gives you is enough to win a prize. So after you collect your prize, you then come back to this screen. They've just won their packet of coins, they feel awesome, and now all of a sudden they have a chance to spend their coins to win a character. But the key here is that these banners are not the same every time. So that free coin banner, which is our main rewarded advertising point, if you watch an ad, you won't see it again for several minutes. And if you avoid the banner, it will reappear again after a few games, after 4 games, after 5 games, and then after 6 games. It never completely goes away, but it's slowly, it's always there, just trying to let you know. If it's there every game, like with the banner ads, used to always be at the bottom of the screen. Like our minds can ignore them. Eventually we don't actually see the banner out at the bottom of the screen. Just like you go to a web page you visit every day, which is loaded with ads, but you sort of, your mind just blocks it out because those ads are always in the same position. So by having these banners shift around and present these different opportunities, as well as the time we spend training people to click them at the start, and hey, these banners are awesome, every time you click one you get cool stuff, it worked perfectly. And then we generated, ARPUs. We were very happy with using this system. Essentially, you're trading time. So for the 30 seconds you take to watch that video, you get a reward equal to much longer than 30 seconds of work. Sometimes we don't even have the banners there at all. Maybe it's just a fun time to present the amusing death you just had, or we use this to highlight the sharing system, or we pop up a banner to let you know how you're going with your achievement, how many logs have you jumped on this game. We even started using it to cross-sell our plush toys. It was a really great system, and we continued to expand it through development. And of course, we always work on getting people back to watch ads, which is Crossy Road's key source of revenue. After they've watched them, as I said, after we've watched them, we play with that frequency to ensure that that they're always coming back to click. So if we were to follow our own, it's the randomness that works really well. At the moment, when you click that banner, it always gives you 20 coins. And it's a consistent reward. But if we followed our idea of random rewards, why don't we make the rewards themselves random? And I'm sure you'll see this very soon in a future update where you watch an ad, you'll get a packet of random coins, and we'll start hiding characters in there that can only be achieved through clicking those ad banners. It's always important to think about your innovations, and I'm surprised it took us this long to come up with the idea, but it's giving people strong motivation to click those banners is what is the key to a healthy game. When we released the game, the banner system was so effective we ended up having customer complaints when the ads dried up. So as I said, we only had Unity ads and Ad Colony, which are like 10 ads a day each. We had people emailing us in very large numbers saying, "Where are our ads? Can we have some more, please?" Which is a great testament to the system we developed. So just to sum up some final numbers, Crossy Road has now had 160 million downloads. It was the #1 downloaded game the Christmas it was released. This is a number we've talked about before. The game earned $10 million US in its first 90 days on the App Store. But we haven't talked about this number before, so 7 million of that was from rewarded video combined from the two networks. And researching this talk, I dived into the dashboard and found that we have served 3 billion ad impressions over the last 2.5 years. So the unique path that Andy and I took is we wanted zero compromises on retention and virality. We didn't want any embarrassing ads popping up in case PewDiePie played the game. So we didn't do it at all, but that's leaving money on the table. But there are other great examples of games here that monetize not only through rewarded video, but supplement with banners and interstitial video, and we look at them closely, and you all should too. All great games, particularly Graham, who are able to monetize with ads so effectively they're able to advertise their own games, and I encourage you all to look at Graham games closely. There's a lot of articles about them on the internet. And sorry, that was a little fast, but thank you all. I hope that was useful.
Hi, Matthew.
Hi.
So, thank you. So when we reach the maximize ACPM topic, so could you describe us more about how to do ACPM manual management, like to substitute in routines?
Manual,
things?
yeah,
Yes.
okay.
And then how do you determine about small teams? Small team is the small revenue or small number of people or small something. Could you describe more? Thank you.
Sorry, I missed the second half of that question. Small what?
How do you determine small teams prefer to use ads agency?
What?
So how do you determine
Team size?
small teams? Sorry, small teams.
Hipster Whale still remains a fairly small team. I can't give you a lot of background because I haven't worked at a big team for quite a long time.
Thank you.
Like I said, with the small team, we knew we didn't have the staff to do those sorts of jobs, so we mitigated entirely by we sidestepped it. With regard to manually optimizing eCPMs, again, that's something we've not done a lot of. There are people around who can do that work for you. So, you might contract someone to say who's had experience in that field. They will then go ahead and negotiate deals with the ad networks on your behalf. We've experimented with that a little bit, but when Crossy Road really hit it big and we had all those ads, it was still just Andy and I, and we were sweating like we just had to take what we could get from the ad networks because we had bigger problems to solve. Yeah. We probably should have put more people on at that point.
Hi, Matthew.
Hi.
I'm asking in the perspective of a user. I really love Shooty Sky. So what I do is I cannot get enough of the reward videos. So what I do, I usually play for half an hour or an hour, and I would click as many ad videos as possible to get the coins.
Yeah.
I get about 4,000, 5,000 coins, and now they don't appear anymore.
The ads don't appear anymore.
They don't appear anymore. I can't get enough of that. I want that. I want to buy those missiles, the homewing missiles, 750 coins.
I'll address your issue after the talk.
Yeah. All right, that's it.
Hi, Matthew. Just a quick question around your recommendation around iron source mediation. I was wondering, that's kind of like a two-ish parter question. So part one, do you rely entirely on the algorithm, or are you managing that waterfall yourself? And what is your opinion / how do you address potential bias in mediation, where a mediation layer and an algorithm have their own inventory that may be prioritized? Does that make sense?
Bias in the mediation algorithm, is that what you're talking about?
Correct.
We've experimented with multiple providers. I mean, the only way to dodge bias in a mediation algorithm is to manage it, is to do more manual action, to jump in and, you know, negotiate your eCPMs and stuff. It's something we've not done a lot of and should be doing more of, and probably will look more into in the future. The idea, like the biggest difference happened, like when we just put mediation in the first place, like Unity Ads and Ad Colony knew they had guaranteed bandwidth and didn't have to compete. The moment we put mediation in and, oh, my numbers are dropping and I have to catch up with the other, it did really help our eCPMs. We've got a lot of networks in there, probably too many now, and so you don't necessarily notice the hard acceleration and drop if someone gets a higher eCPM. Yeah, it's a big problem. Well, it's not a big problem, it's just a big thing to solve. Having multiple people on staff would probably still not be enough to manage eCPMs constantly. What was the first part of the question, sorry?
I was asking if you do manage those waterfalls or if you rely entirely on
No,
algorithms.
we retire entirely on the mediation to do its job, but that is not the best way of doing it. That's the lazy way of doing it. Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time we have. Thank you, Matt Hall.